This is the Mistress Reviewer, and today I will be reviewing two books. Both of them by Ken Follett, but both books are like completely different that you wouldn't realize it was the same author unless you were specifically looking for his books. The first one I'm going to talk about is Whiteout. Whiteout is set in, I want to say Scotland. Can't really remember because I've been reading so much since then, but it's set somewhere over there in England, and it's about this lady named Tony Gallo, who is the head of security at a medical facility where they test drugs, create new viruses, do all that sorts of stuff, create antiviruses. And Tony, being 38 and lovely and half Hispanic, half Irish, is madly in love with her 60-something-year-old boss, Stanley Oxenford, the man who in fact established the facilities and developed the antivirus that everybody is so into. The book starts off with one of her employees stealing a laboratory animal who he had become fond of and contracting a deadly virus for which there is no cure at all. If this were to spread, it would cause thousands upon thousands to die and everything would go to hell. Fortunately, they managed to contain the situation and they believe they've got everything under control, except that while this is going on, another plot has occurred and Stanley's son has decided that he's going to join up with some gangsters and steal the virus to sell to the highest bidder. Unfortunately for Stanley's son Kit, Tony proves to be a very formidable opponent, and they do stop him and they do get everything under control. What I really liked about this book is that, one, it was written by Ken Follett. I personally believe he is one of the most amazing writers to live upon this earth, and the reason I think that is because he knows how to write a book. And he knows how to write for different genres and make it completely different. While some authors have a distinct style that you can see like across their writing, Ken Follett doesn't allow himself to be weighed down by expectations. Whiteout was a very light novel. It seemed like something, you know, you pick up at an airport and you read while you're there waiting for your plane, or when you're at a trip somewhere and you want something to just sit back and chill with. It was still well written. The plot was very fast paced. It wasn't slow. I think it could have stood to have a few more developmental chapters where they developed the characters more. That would have made it a little bit more interesting, I guess. But overall, it was very good, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in thrillers. And it, once again, is Whiteout. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I will be reviewing today is also by Ken Follett, and it is World Without End. This book is probably one of the most amazing books I have ever laid my hands across. It is set in 14th century England, and it centers around the lives of 4 people who, from childhood, grow up together in a town, but they lead so like very different lives, and the choices they make affect not only them but literally thousands of other people around them. The reason I picked up this book is because it is the sequel to The Pillars of the Earth, which was set in, I think, 11th century England, 200 years earlier, and it is about the building of the cathedral in Kingsbury town. So this book is set 200 years later, and the characters in this book are descendants from the first book, but according to the author, you don't have to read the first book to read this one, since it is set 200 years later. The reason I like this book so much is because there is so much character development. Like, every page is seeping with it. Not only is there character development, there's development of the town, of the plot, of everything. It gives you so much to go by. It's impossible to not be enthralled by it. This is one of those books where if a character pisses you off, you're wishing for his death, or you're rooting for somebody else, you know, to win the situation. The book starts off with 4 children randomly getting together and going into the woods to shoot a bow and arrow, and they witness the murder of 2 knights and another knight who ends up losing his arm, who holds this deep, dark secret. Eventually the children grow up. One of the girls gets married to the man of her dreams, but he's in love with another woman, and for the next 20 years she has to suffer with that. The other one becomes a builder, but because of the choices he makes, the people he chooses to sleep with or doesn't choose to sleep with affect not only him but literally the whole town, and the drama is really intense there. His younger brother ends up being the villain of the story, and while you do hate him, he's a lesser villain than some other characters that pop up, such as the Prior of Kingsbury, which is the leading priest person. And also there's just so much going on. I highly recommend it, and this book definitely has 5 out of 5 stars for me. So if you get a chance, please pick up World Without End by Ken Follett.